Though I think the one thing I wanted to check with you is like, why are you involved? Why are you offering your time and energy into this course? Like what, not like in term, although I mean, I'm open to it in terms of like, what does it do for you? But I think it's more like, yeah, what's your why? Why are you committing? Um, we heard all sorts of reasons why I am activated around this, but I wonder what it is for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have been like like perhaps naively pretty much always wanting to make the world a better place, whatever that means. And I've gone on a lot of journeys in my life to um figure out and experiment with how I might do that. And I've discarded a lot of ideas along the way. Um, I've been a yoga teacher. I've dabbled in activism. I've, done stand up comedy. Wanting people to laugh and bring some truth and levity that way. So it's like I've just been on this um, journey for a long time, and I eventually discovered circling, and I could definitely see how, about 4 years ago now, I guess almost. I could definitely see how increasing my awareness of myself, structures, states, and shadows that I was dealing with on a personal level, and then seeing how my dealing with that could positively impact others around me, and that was just such a personal way to impact the world. And to me, it felt perhaps like a more honest way.
Mhm.
Um, and so I mean, I've been pursuing that and doing that, and I'm facilitating circles now. And then I think I was just kind of along for the ride as you moved more like towards what like John is doing, and John being in the ether, John Vervaeke being in the ether for both of us, and for sort of this realm in general, and these sort of circles that we travel in. That kind of came online for me at about the same time. So even having less experience with authentic relating and circling than you do, the timing was there for me to kind of make not a total shift. I still see so much valuing in circling and authentic relating, and that's definitely a piece to all of this. But this being an extension or an expansion of that work, and me having some capacity to lend my help and to you and to this fluctuating non-concrete movement, whatever it is. So my way of lending support to that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I wonder, and I'm wondering this from myself and sort of in this moment, I wonder what it is that's sort of underneath all of this for both of us. Like, why do we want to make the world a better place? What's actually the, and I imagine in some ways John might refer to, the way we care about things. Um, but I'm still wondering, like, what is it? I've always sort of said my core why is just around freedom. Like I want to be able to relax. I want it to feel safe to just be me in all contexts, and in so many ways where I'm certainly not anxious about that anymore, thanks to all the personal development work that I've done, largely influenced through circling and authentic relating. But there's still that sense, in terms of like the context, in every place that I enter, the context doesn't necessarily say that the best thing to do right now is to fully be yourself. That freedom doesn't fully exist there. And I think for me, I would love to flow more flow more with life, um, and quote unquote work. And I think, in some ways there's a perspective of, I can only control so much of it, and I'm not interested in putting myself into some place of self-deception or bullshit myself, um, so that it feels like I don't have to worry about all these speed bumps that I see on the road, or that I'm constantly swerving around. So I think there's something about that for me is like, I still see, like, yes, I'm doing my internal work, but I also see the external. And, for me, sort of the perspective, with circling was like, I just want to like spread it to everybody, because if everybody does this, the world will be a better place. And I still believe that. The problem is that I can't force 7 billion people to start doing circling. And there are people who have influence and are in positions of power who get to make decisions around systemic issues. And if that's a much smaller group of people in the world, and I think if those people can be sort of addressed and they can start taking on these perspectives, then there is actually a trickle down economics sort of idea that there'll be that top down influence of the people in positions of power that will trickle out and will help actually elevate the rest of society, where they'll more naturally gravitate towards this sort of stuff. And then once that's happening, I can be freer and more contexted, be as I am. I can be messy
Mhm.
with my speech, just because I'm enthusiastic to connect or something. And I don't have to worry so much about impact or the idea that we can't repair if there's bad impact. Yeah, I just like that. I like
Mm,
that idea, and I think that's a thing that's driving me in this area.
mm.
And I wonder if you've got some sort of idea of what might be driving you to want
Hmm.
to make the world a better place.
For me, like I can definitely get in touch with some trauma and like seeing, realizing as a kid that like I guess I had like like I kind of realized in a moment of despair that although things were bad, there were people that had it worse or there were bigger problems out there
Mhm,
than me.
mhm,
And I think that whatever, maybe like some shadow was buried there because then I could focus my attention on that, on those people or on those things.
mhm,
And I could forget myself. I could leave myself behind. So that is still here a bit. Um, and I do feel some anxiety when I know that I'm not doing what I can to um, to help, to like I am fairly sensitive, so I, you know, am aware of or can feel or however you want to word that, all of these problems, all this, awakening from the meaning crisis. I've got an anthropology degree. Like I've been wanting to figure this out, to know where to situate myself within this, and then from there be able to have whatever little influence into amelioration of these things to the best of my ability. And if I'm not doing that, I do not like that feeling. It is a
mhm,
not good feeling.
mhm,
Um, it puts me in touch with like apathy and complacency and meaninglessness and just a lot of not goodness for me.
mhm,
So there is an element of that where it's like as long as I'm doing kind of something, anything, and I'm and healing myself is a part of that, to the best of my ability, so I'm not filtering everything through that.
yeah,
And I don't want to dishonor that pain by saying that that's not here and part of something positive as well. Like if what is light has shadow, then what is shadow has light as well. And there is goodness that has come from that for me and in my drive.
mhm,
So all of that being said, it's like this seems to me to be part of whatever my path is in healing as well.
mhm,
Um, because John, in Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, like it sounds stupid for me to say it, so it's like I'll pin it on John because he said it and he's smart. So, but it's like if enlightenment can be sort of broken down into steps and into things that we can sort of tangibly do and work towards, whether or not I achieve it, like, I mean, yes, I would love to. I would love to get a handle on my own suffering enough that I can, um, still feel pain but not be suffering, and um, you know, share my experiences with others so that we can all get closer to that. Because what would the world be like if it was just a little bit more in that direction before I die? Like, I really want to see what that would be like, and I can't imagine anything else more worthwhile to put my time into.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate the the elegance of how you said that, you know. So the thinking I was having was, you know, the way that I break it down in my mind is, you know, I'm in a position of privilege and I feel like this is something that I can do. I have some of these capacities thanks to being introduced to this work a while ago, and doing all the work that I have done with it. And it's just like, if I take that evolutionary developmental perspective and I apply it to society, it's like, how does society move from its current stage through to the next stage? And it's like, it probably doesn't do it with us just sitting around with our um, sitting on our hands. It's actually perhaps people like yourself, like myself, like John, like Guy Sangstock, like Jordan Hall, like all you know, Schmachtenberger, like all these, you know, groups like Rebel Wisdom, Peter with the Stoa. It takes these sorts of groups, these little communities, or whatever word we want to use, who sort of senses the potential of what's there, and maybe has some tools that help us visit that place more often so that we can integrate and become more stable at that
Mhm.
stage. So in many ways, you know, the thing that, you know, that is always said that's important for people to do to have, you know, really good life satisfaction is to, you know, put some of your time towards something that's bigger than yourself, you know, that sort of that existential perspective. And I don't know that I go to bed, you know, any night thinking, oh, good job, you know,
Yeah.
helping everybody else, and, you know, focus on the bigger picture. But I can feel it inside, you know, something like you said, like when you're not doing it, you don't like how you feel, like that. It's sort of that regression, you know, into like apathy or whatever. It's just like, it feels better to lean in that direction. And I think there's just something we're both trusting about it. um, like, this feels good, but it doesn't feel good in like a coping or a bullshitty sort of way. It feels like, no, like this is a direction, and, you know, there's a pull, you know, like you can feel the pull, you know, or the attraction to it, but you're kind of pulled, at least for me, I'm kind of pulled towards it. And anytime that I encounter people who also seem to be pulled in that direction, I get pretty excited. It's like, oh, there's more of us, you know, that means there's a better chance that we can you know, stoke the fire, to move us along to the next stage.
Hmm.
So yeah, I love the way you said it, and maybe that's the more structural perspective, um, of sort of a deeper why, or what, why I still find myself moving in this direction, and trying to build courses and take people along on the rocket ship to Mars. Whoever wants to go for that ride, because they're so attracted to what might be there on the other end. Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, just a quick follow up to that. Another group, Willow Monastic Academy. was in their Jade meditation course yesterday that just started, and when I landed in, there were like several people there that I knew from various realms, and it just felt so wonderful to just
Mhm.
sort of land in a space where I didn't really expect to know very many people. Like have a little bit of experience with a couple of people at Willow, but other than that, and then just to see them and just to be reminded that there really are people that are on this path, whether or not I speak to them every day or regularly or whatever, just to kind of be, in those waters, kind of them popping up, me popping up, and like, oh hey, like we're doing this thing. This is important to us. Whatever this is specifically to each individual, there's some common thread
Mhm.
that feels really good for me to be aware of and a part of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine, even another way that we could put this or sort of explain ROI is go watch John's series. And there's, I don't think there's anything either of us disagree with that John has brought forward or any of his perspectives. Like there's the map.
Yeah.
We may have jumped into it at different places because we had already had some of the awareness, but if you have no idea why anybody would devote their time or their attention to this, go have a look at that and
Yeah.
spend some quiet time in contemplation and see whether or not it plugs in and fits for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a short 50 hours.
Just a
But if
short
you don't
50 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you don't have time for that, hopefully this short video
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. Right. Quote unquote short video.